L-citrulline. And as has been presented already in Busan's talk, that with safety data looking at ADI-PEG20 and HCC, melanoma, and mesothelioma, and several other malignancies. So what do we know about depletion in arginine in pancreas cancer? We know that from one study by Rick Bowles and colleagues from California that a majority of pancreas cancers are deficient in arginine succinate synthetase. So 35 of 46 lack the enzymes. And with regard to ADI-PEG20, the preclinical data I think is very compelling. There's inhibition of ASS in preclinical models of pancreas cancer. There's additive effects when combined with gemcitabine, and we've reviewed the essential role that gemcitabine has in the treatment of pancreas cancer. And an additional mechanism is that there's blockade of ribonucleotide reductase enzyme, which is involved in gemcitabine metabolism and may augment the benefit of ADI-PEG20 when it's combined with gemcitabine in this and other diseases. So this is an example of what an ASS positive and negative malignancy looks like. On the left panel, on the left panel here is the negative tissue, and on the right is the staining in terms of the epithelia. So a majority of tumors were negative for ASS, and suggesting that pancreas cancer might be a very logical target for evaluation with this drug. So there's some other data to support developing a program in pancreas cancer. We've mentioned the backbone here that's key in terms of nab-paclitaxel and gemcitabine. In other malignancies, notably in prostate and head and neck malignancies, there's data combining another taxane, docetaxel, with ADI-PEG20 and seeing favorable benefits. And there, as you mentioned, delaying the emergence of resistance to gemcitabine is I think, also a very attractive component for regarding development. So moving now to the data, and at this meeting 2 years ago, we presented a form and mentioned the fact that this trial was about to start, so it's nice now to be able to present this, and this is work from our group, and in particular Maeve Lowry at Memorial. So the study was a phase 1b trial looking at the addition of ADI-PEG20 to gemcitabine and nab-paclitaxel. The primary aims were safety and tolerability to determine the maximum tolerated dose and the recommended phase 2 dose to take forward, to look at some oncologic outcomes in terms of progression-free and overall survival, and to look at PK and immunogenicity of the combination. So it was a traditional 3+3 dose escalation design. 2 dose levels of ADI-PEG20 evaluated, the 18 and 36 milligram per meter squared. And in the dose escalation part, patients were permitted to be either untreated or have up to 1 prior regimen. And then an additional cohort of 9 patients who were treatment naive. So this is the summation of the data. There were 18 patients enrolled, and the study has now completed its recruitment, and we're working on putting together the data for publication. Recruitment started in late 2014 and completed almost a year ago now. So the first cohort of the 18 milligram per meter squared, no dose-limiting toxicity, and that really was the theme throughout. This was very well tolerated. In the second cohort, there was 1 dose-limiting toxicity with regard to liver function tests, which was in a patient who had extensive disease and probably more from the cytotoxic therapy than from ADI-PEG20, but based on how the dose-limiting criteria was defined, this was appropriately adjudicated as a DLT. So the 36 milligram per meter squared dose level was expanded, and as of now, we still have 3 people on this trial, 2 who have had major partial responses, including 1 patient who had progressed on FOLFIRINOX and then went on to receive this combination in a second line, and has now been on the study over 15 months and has had a remarkable response, and that's always very striking when we see this, and particularly in the second line setting in pancreas cancer. So looking at the oncologic part of this, the response rate I think was encouraging. So combined for all patients here was 41%. As we said, one with where they had prior therapy. 60% of patients had stable disease, and the disease control rate was exceptionally high. If we look at this in comparison with the gemcitabine nab-paclitaxel phase 3 data, that's the MPACT trial, you'll see that this is a favorable comparison, recognizing again all the caveats of cross-study comparison, but there the response rates were 23% and disease control was 50%, so I think this is an encouraging signal. As of now, we're still waiting the final median overall survival, and we should have that very soon. So this is the waterfall plot, and it also looks encouraging, as you see a lot of partial responses here, and a lot of patients also had stable disease. A small number had progression as their best response. And looking at the spider plot, again, the green lines being the ones of interest here, and showing the durability of patients, or durability of treatment on the trial, and I think that also speaks to the activity of the combination. So with regard to toxicity, like with the FOLFOX combination, what was seen was principally related to the cytotoxic therapy, mostly hematologic in terms of neutropenia and thrombocytopenia, fatigue, some neutropenic fever with one individual with hemolytic uremic syndrome from gemcitabine. And for patients who did well, and that was a good number, it's pretty common to have to change this regimen, giving 3 weeks in a row with regard to the cytotoxic part gets cumulatively untenable over time, and for many we ended up switching to a day 1, day 15 regimen with the ADI-PEG20 dosed on a weekly schedule. With regard to ADI-PEG20, very well tolerated. I think we found it very difficult to ascribe really any toxicity to this drug. There was one individual who did have a syncopal episode, and just based on the early development where there had been a question of seizure related to this drug, but we did not confirm that, and there were a couple of very minor injection site reactions, but again, very well tolerated. So what about the correlates in terms of the ASS story? So of the 18, there were 11 patients who had tissue available. And in truth, we didn't really see a signal in one direction or the other, in that there was response in both the ASS deficient, which was defined as lack of the enzyme in greater than 50% of the cells, and in the proficient group, there was also activity. So small numbers here, and I think one can't draw definitive conclusions, but certainly something that needs to be studied further. And I think leaves open the question of what to do with regard to the trial design in pancreas cancer for later stage study assessments. These are just some pharmacodynamic data, again similar to what you saw from the ADI-PEG20 story in HCC and the FOLFOX combination, and suppression of arginine with increased levels of citrulline that coming together over time, and just noting that not all patients received a full 6 months of therapy. So where do we go from here in pancreas cancer? I think we feel that the data is very encouraging in terms of the small phase 1b expansion cohort that we've seen, and that the data do support further development in pancreas cancer. I think a discussion whether this should go directly to a phase 3 or consider a randomized phase 2, phase 3 design, as we increasingly do in this disease. And there are pros and cons of both strategies. And the question of whether selection with regard to ASS deficient versus proficient, my sense would be that we would not do this in pancreas cancer based on what we've seen so far, but certainly this would be something that would be looked at in a prospective way to definitively answer the question. And I think there's opportunity to develop this drug. The FOLFOX ADI-PEG combination is also a very attractive combination in pancreas cancer in a beyond second-line setting. So this may be another way to bring this forward in other GI malignancies over and above HCC. So I'll leave you with these conclusions, that increasing treatment options for patients with a good performance status. There's thankfully a lot of drugs, a lot of targets being evaluated in pancreas cancer. I think there are a number of promising directions, and ADI-PEG20 is high on this list, and we're excited by what we've seen so far. I'm looking forward to designing the next step in this disease. We clearly need additional trials for these patients, and we also need the ability to select treatments. And I'm not sure we'll be able to do that with ADI-PEG20, but I think there's at least some candidates options here for further biomarker development in this disease. So thank you. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Eileen. So any questions for anybody?
And again, excellent presentation. No question. Thank you. So we are, as of now, a little bit behind schedule, so we take a break. Let's come back at 10:55. So when you're outside, maybe taking a coffee or snacks, I suggest there's two TV monitors out there. One is the agenda for today. The other one is a film we just finished. From UK, we got it last night. It's a mesothelioma patient in a very aggressive type of mesothelioma, sarcoma-type patient that the person is actually a hiker going to the Himalayas. Himalayas